Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the presentation. I am Micky Kerr, and this is called Has Capitalism Stolen Football? The main reason for me doing this is because I've got a clicker. And I've always kind of dreamt of this, and let's just see what happens here. And so we begin. Thank you for coming down. Appreciate you being here. And that concludes... No, it doesn't really, obviously. But in short, I'm going to try to argue this. It has completely stolen football. Now, Ruth, don't laugh, but this is I'm a professional primary school teacher, and I teach the basics, and that's what I want to teach you now on this journey. The aim of this presentation: challenge the pervasive common sense, things we just normalise, things we've stopped questioning. And that should be quite easy to demonstrate how football the tradition has been completely eroded. We move on. Now, this might be a little bit dry. Nice transition, by the way. What does capitalism want? So before we get into the football, we've got to look at the framework, what capitalism will always try and do. It's pretty simple. Increase profit margins. Constant expansion in search of new markets forever. And forever is important because it cannot stop. You've got to keep expanding. You've got, it's grow or die. The bigger you get as a corporation, this rule really makes, it's really impactful because you can't stay still. Investors want growth margins constantly. What's your growth margin? You've got to keep growing all the time. It's got a laser pad. No, don't want that. An emphasis on individual private ownership, pretty obvious. Capitalism doesn't like public ownership, it wants private ownership. The vast accumulation of wealth into a small amount of hands. And that you can see that in the wider society as well. It's pretty obvious stuff if you look at the world economy. And last but not least, it will naturally try and seek a monopoly because all the other four can be done way better if you get the monopoly. And I'm going to try and prove to you that's exactly what has happened. This is a process. That's what capitalism is. It's a process. Okay, before we get into where we are now, we've got to look back, obviously, for a bit of context. How did football begin? This is very brief and very vague, don't get me wrong. Football was founded by the working class, and clubs were rooted in their local community. And that's important. Local community will pop up again because that's what it was all about. It was about local community. The FA Cup, I think the first one was 1863. Was founded then, and by the end of the century, you've got a few dozen teams that have been created. It goes with the railway expansion as well. You can actually move about a bit more then. 1888 was the first one. 12 teams altogether, 6 from the northwest. That's the mecca of football, unfortunately. Come on, clicker. Don't fucking let me down now. Yeah, pretty obvious stuff. The local community watched their local team. And there were huge crowds. And players got relatively low wages. There was a wage cap until, I think, the 50s. Jimmy Hill. It was £20 a week then. And that's changed football massively. But they were too low, to be honest with you. But huge crowds in football. And last but not least, if this clicker fucking works, come on, you bellend. It's not very... there we go. Yeah, no, not that. Oh, that's a great picture. I've ruined that there with that. There's a bit of latency on this, I'm afraid. The fans are very close to the pitch. That's important to remember. This is how football began. And they're very close to each other. Really crowded stadiums, and people stood shoulder to shoulder. And I've put there a mass social gathering that represented, again, local community. It was all about local teams. It was all about local community. And this is a picture that I've shown you. It's an absolutely amazing picture. I absolutely love it. This is Grimsby Town, 1939. And the reason I've put this up is I want you to look at the side of the pitch. It's absolutely incredible. Look how close the people are to the pitch. You can't even take a corner. It's ridiculous. You'd have to move people out of the way for a throw-in. Very intimidating, I imagine, if you're an opposition player. But that says to me, that says Grimsby. It's the people of Grimsby who've come out. They are very important. They matter. The people matter. They've come to the football and they're very imposing. They're on the same level as the players. They're stood next to them. It's the people's game. That's also a FA Cup semi-final. So that says one thing about Grimsby Town being in a semi-final. Local teams could compete. It was an equal playing field. It's all about local people. It's all about local pride. And I want you to bear that in mind, that picture. I want to have it in your head. It's absolutely brilliant. Packed to the rafters. Grimsby Town. Now, I've done one slide to explain how capitalism came into football. And this is little known because a lot of you will be thinking 1992, 93 at the start of the Premier League. You've got to go back to 1983. that's a massive moment. The FA created a loophole allowing clubs to evade regulation that prohibited directors. You weren't allowed to make profit from football. You weren't allowed. That was the law. That was the regulation. And it probably still is. But there's never an announcement. They don't go, right, we're changing the law. They just create a loophole. That's all they do. And that means the capitalists can get in. So there's no change to the law. It's just a sneaky little loophole. That means you go back to what capitalism wants. It wants profit. You can now start making profit. And that is when the capitalists came in. 1985 was the first time it got floated on the stock exchange. So that's globalised market forces. Alan Sugar, believe it or not, was the first to do it. That's 1985. You go back to 1983 again. Come on, clicker. And they scrapped, that was the year they scrapped splitting gate receipts. So if you were a smaller team playing a bigger team, you got a big share of the gate. That stops in 83. So that you've got that level playing field kind of been eradicated. You've got that monopoly now starting to happen. The bigger clubs want the money. And for a wider perspective in the political spectrum, this is the start of the neoliberal era as well. You've got Thatcher and Reagan. Neoliberalism is basically no state intervention and deregulation of economics. You've got the financialisation, globalisation. So that's the wider context. And capitalism, this is glory days. This is perfect time for capitalism. It's won completely. In 1989, communism failed completely, and that's the end of history. If you remember that term, it's like we've won. So capitalism is very dominant now, and it's found its way into football. Let's make some money. And that has affected the game massively. In 1987, if it comes up, come on. Every top flight team had a shirt sponsor. So I think it was 1981 that a team was fined about $5,000 for having a shirt sponsor on TV. By 1983, the capitalists have come in, and by 1987, every team's got a shirt sponsor. And we're going to come back to that in a minute, actually. You've got to compete, you've got to keep growing. If they're doing it and they're getting money, it reverberates. So 1992, you will all know about this, the Breakaway League, formed with Rupert Murdoch's Sky B, and £61 million was paid to the top 20 teams. It's now £3 billion. Inflation's risen quite a lot. But that says a lot about the monopoly as well. It's all about the top league. And for a bit more context as well, English football was in a mess at this time. There was a crisis. We'd been banned from Europe. It was all about hooligans dominating, and it wasn't a nice place to be if you're a family. You didn't want to take your kids to the football. It wasn't a real mess, and it needed rebranding. You've got the Hillsborough disaster. And what the capitalists do really well is they come out of crisis on top. When there's a crisis, they always come out on top. There was a crisis in English football, and this is the rebrand. And it's done as progress. And it was progress in many ways, but there's a massive price to pay for it. That's how the capitalists came in, 80s. And by the mid-90s, you've got the Premier League's completely dominant. That is a picture of the Euros. It's a worldwide problem, not just an English one. Benzema's just netted. Pepe's not very happy about it. But the reason I've put this slide up there, I want to see, look how far away the fans are now. They're nowhere near the pitch. For a bit of context, they're behind two barriers and they're not even pitch side, they're raised. You might have watched the Euros and noticed how far away the fans are now from the pitch. You see the odd photograph from a fan in the stadium, it's miles away. People are being moved away from the pitch because you'll notice now what you see around the pitch there, it's pretty obvious now. In a capitalist consumer society, which is what we live in, it's advertising now that takes centre stage. The game has been totally taken over by advertising, and that's basically the players exist at the moment to sell products. Come on, clicker. Latency, it has a few moments. So I want to talk about this for the time being. Just a barrage of constant advertising. I said I want to challenge the pervasive common sense. I can't look at new kits. Random businesses are plastered all over our football shirts, far bigger than the badge, and their brand is completely dominant. No one questions this anymore. Packard Bell there, Leeds top. The brand of our football clubs has been lessened. Our identities have been totally stolen. It's all about advertising. It's all about the big brand coming in and taking advantage of our football teams basically. And you can't survive without it now. You've got to have a sponsor on your shirt. Barcelona didn't have one for a while. big trouble now with debts. Advertising dominates pitch side and often into the stands. You've probably seen European Champions League games, and they've got the front rows taped off now. Have you noticed that? Sometimes taped off completely because they don't want people near the advertising. They want the advertising to stand out. You might have seen as well Chinese writing sometimes. You won't see it anymore because they've got loads of innovation now in advertising. That's where all the innovation is, because that's so important for the capitalist system to create profit and keep increasing it. They've got brilliant innovation in terms of technology. They can plant their own advertisements on the advertising board. So each country is seeing different advertising now. Loads of innovation. You've even got on the pitch now, the optical illusions. They're finding more and more ways to advertise to us constantly. It just keeps coming. It can never stop, though. It can never stop. It has to keep coming. They have to keep expanding. They have to keep coming for us. Completely hijack the sport. And it is propaganda. I want to mention this briefly. I shouldn't pick anyone out, but maybe Jose Mourinho, if it is called Jose or Jose. I mean, this guy's got tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of pounds in the bank. He's had contracts, big contracts for 20 years now. And you see him constantly on the TV, advertising. And it's mainly betting firms. Betting firms equate to, I don't know what, it's about 60 or 70% now of all advertising. And they do gamble aware and all that. They give you the empty rhetoric. But after that, they'll chuck another fucking advert on. It's all about gambling. And no, there's another one. Oh, fuck, it's late. I need to sort this out. I need to get a better one, don't I? You might have noticed that. I wanted to just mention this because Cristiano Ronaldo took the Coke bottles off him. I think he said Aqua's good. That knocked £4 billion off their share price, which goes to show the power of the celebrity these days. But the reason I want to show this because now they've got Coke in the foreground because the background's not big enough. Look at all that fucking advertising in the background. It's ridiculous. And now we've got it in the front as well. No doubt in a few years they'll be lined up all sorts of products. It's just constant. Foreground, background, it will never stop. It has to keep coming forward. We live in a world of advertising. And people wonder about mental health. Increased profit margins. That's what it's all about. Players' health does not matter. You look at the 5 things that capitalism wants. That's it. Everything else is secondary. More and more football being shown on TV, which is good in a way because we love it and we want to see more of it. But the schedules are just ridiculous. I mean, every year you hear about managers complaining and coaching staff saying the players can't handle this. They've got massive injury lists because they've got fucking products to sell. Every new game, every time they're showing these football games, it's just for adverts. That's it. That's the reason they exist. I noticed as well in the Euros, they've always got the score in the top left corner, haven't they? And every now and again, they'll just bring the score up for no reason. And the only reason they're doing that is it just shows another advert. That's the only way. It's just constant advertising. Football's secondary now, really. It's just about selling products. That's all it is. Every major cup competition has been scaled up now. So we've got the World Cup is going to 48 teams. The European Cup has just gone up from 16 to 24 teams. The UEFA Champions League is going up. I don't know how many more. They've kind of snuck that under the radar, haven't they? And the UEFA Cup as well. It's just more games, more profit. Because the multinationals pay the TV companies and then they pay a bit out to the Premier League and the teams. It's all about the multinationals. We want more. We want to sell more products. We want more people seeing our stuff. That's all it boils down to. That's the reason the 3 o'clock kickoff everyone used to moan about. Because we love the 3 o'clock on a Saturday. But if you can spread it out, you just get more products on TV. And the ridiculous times you've got to travel up and down the country. Arsenal are playing, Newcastle on a Monday night. It's just ridiculous for the fans as well. But the fans do not matter. We've been moved away from the pitch. They do not care about the fans at all. You can't really put it more clearer than that. It's all about big business. Football exists to sell products now. That's the way it is. That's the framework. That's what's been happening. And it's a process that's been happening for a long time. Well, about 30 or 40 years. Okay. That's obviously got a bit of irony to it. All hail our sponsorship saviours. These people are seen as saviours. They are heralded as being absolutely amazing. They never used to be in, by the way. We used to have football without these fucking brands everywhere. It's changed so much. We don't need... If our football teams aren't important enough just to have our badge, why do we bother with them? But anyway, this is an absolute disgrace. I mean, Leeds United haven't had much to worry about there with getting to cup finals, but other teams do. And, you get about a quarter now, the sponsors take half the tickets. If you've got 80,000 people in the stadium, for me, each team gets 39,500. I mean, it's just ridiculous. These people are taking... The reason they're involved in the game is because they're making money. They're not doing it because they're good for the game. They're doing it because they're fucking making loads of money. And they're treated like royalty. They get all the best seats. It's absolutely... They get half the stadium now. And obviously, real fans have got to go on the black market and try and get tickets at ridiculous prices. And modern stadiums, the ones that are being built, are catering for the rich. What they want is corporate boxes. They don't want fans. They want the tourist and they want the business class because that's how they make money. We talked about legacy fans. A fine dining experience is offered with your very own waiter. I mean, I've been there. It's great. I fucking love it in the box. It is fantastic, I say. But the waiters are all on 0-hour contracts, of course. And it is quite glamorous. But, I mean, at Leeds United, we've lost 2,000 seats because Bates wanted the extra row of corporate boxes. And that's 2,000 people now that can't get into the ground. We're back in the Premier League and hopefully going back in this year. And with 2,000 of us can't get in because we've got space for, I don't know, a couple of hundred people. But this makes money. This makes money. It's all about increasing. It's grow or die. That's when you sell it to business. That's the situation. You've got to get as much money in as you can. And now it's getting so ridiculous. New commercial strategies are forcing I've put big clubs in inverted commas there, to merge financially. You've got to merge with the sponsors now if you want to pay for your expansion. This doesn't get talked about enough. What a football stadium. What a football stadium Highbury was. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely brilliant stadium. And now it's Emirates. It's just a random multinational. We've sold our stadiums. They're not just on our tops. We name our stadiums after these people. We didn't need them before. Football got on fine. I mean, Trevor Francis was the first £1 million player. That was way before all this. There was a lot of money in football. But now it's got to the extent where, I'll show you, there's more I could do, but I mean, that's, what a great, look at that. That's right in the middle of its local community. And now it's that. I mean, they've done a very good job for Manchester, I know, and suppose they've been really good, but it's just an Abu Dhabi fucking airline company. You think about King Power as well for Leicester. There's more. It's happening all the time. If any club wants to expand, you have to now merge with a multinational sponsor. You lose your identity completely. It's going to Amazon. White Hart Lane was a nice stadium. It's a place in North London. It's going to Jeff Bezos because Daniel Levy wants over 300 million for the naming rights, so he's struggling really. He's holding out for it. And apparently I think Jeff's got quite a bit of coin. I think he's in space today, actually, which says a lot about our wider world economy when you've got individuals going into space, but whole nations can't afford it. You are watching, of course, the Barclays Premier League. It could never be our Premier League or the English First Division, as it used to be known. It is the fucking Barclays Premier League. Of course it is. It's whoever pays for it. Local pride has been ripped apart and sold at the altar of globalised consumerism. All the time, the local has been smashed down, and it's all about these monopolies taking everything. Unbelievable. Yes, we've been priced out of our stadiums. We can't afford to go. They don't want us in. Think about that Grimsby Town picture. That was the people of Grimsby, really proud, in the semi-final of the FA Cup, on the same level as the players. They were the most important thing. It was about them, really. Now we can't. They don't want us in the grounds. They want tourists. They want business class. They do corporate fucking boxes if they could. But they will do one day. That's where it's going. They have to keep going with it. Or they'll just fucking pipe crowd noise in. They already do it. Come on, Clicker, you can do this. Now, I'll put the German model up. This is a different model to ours. I don't know how you say that name. It could be male or female, as far as I'm concerned. But this is with regards to season ticket holders. This is Bayern Munich. This is what he said, if it is a he. We could charge more than it's a fucking €100 for a season ticket. Now, that is taking fans seriously. He says here we could charge 300, we get 2 million more, but what's 2 million to us? You argue about that over 5 minutes in a deal. And he goes on to have a little dig at England. We do not think the fans are like cows you milk. Football has got to be for everyone, and that's the biggest difference between us and England. Now, for a bit of context, I think this is 2012, so they've just been beaten by Chelsea in the European Cup final, so it's probably a little bit bitter. But it's fucking bang on right. We do milk. Fans have just been left behind. They don't care about us at all. We are not in the picture. Okay. Where's it got us then? Loads of money. We've sold our stadiums. We've put other random businesses on all over our football tops. We've sold everything. That's where it's got us. That's it. Shitloads of debt. That's what it's led to. No future. Absolutely none. This is a process that's going to keep happening. Here's some really interesting stuff. In just over 100 years, so from 1888 to just before 1992, we had 10 instances of administration. Leeds United would have been one of them, or Leeds City, I think we were called, in 1919, where teams got in trouble financially. 10, that's once every 10 years. Come and sit down. It's not embarrassing at all. Since 1992, there have been over 50 recorded, it's 55 instances, with 5 fully dissolved. So that's 1.5 a year. It's unbelievable. It's completely unsustainable. The monopolies are sucking everything out of the local communities. And it is a future. Just every year, it's a future. It's a struggle, to survive.
There'd be some good news coming in.
There isn't really. I've got at the end of it. I've got a way out. But this is more like an alarm bell. Really, this presentation. It's about looking at where we actually are, and because no one's looking at it closely enough. I don't think personally. For many clubs, the 92, it's a yearly fight for survival. Bury, Macclesfield, out of business. That's 200 years old, more than that of football history just gone. Southend have been given more time by a bankruptcy judge, but it's not looking good. Macclesfield, 600 grand. They went out of debt. They went out of business for. That's what Gareth Bale earns in 1 week. You think about the Premier League. I mentioned it. It's £3 billion now. It's probably more this season. It's going up all the time with inflation, obviously, because it goes back to the 70s when gold was and money were decoupled. So it's not. You just print it. It's just inflation, bang. But yeah, 600 grand. It goes so £3 billion, and we've got clubs going out of business for that much money. It's ridiculous. They've got no obligation whatsoever to support the leagues below it. So guess what? They don't. It's that simple. Money's not getting shared out. It's not at all. It's getting sucked out. Fit and proper persons test. I just put this in. It's not too relevant, but it's a fucking joke. You've got some of the most incredible human rights abusers on the planet are entering football. Mike Ashley is he's been compared to Victorian workhouses, what he's doing. My sister used to work for him a few months ago. He's horrible. He's a horrible, horrible man. You've got the Saudis are coming in now, the Saudi royal family. Need I say more? They're passing the fit and proper persons test. It's a joke. They just give you empty rhetoric. It's just advertising. That's all they do. Yeah, they've got money and the next monopoly will take over. That's all it is. I mean, Man United have found that out. The vast accumulation of wealth into a small number of hands. I've mentioned debt, but let's have a look at revenue. The combined revenues of the PL Big Six, so-called, are almost exactly the same as the combined revenues of the other 86 clubs. This is completely unsustainable. And you can see where it's going. The economics is telling. And all the rest of it's just empty rhetoric and bullshit. Look at the economics if you want to understand the situation. The economics of fucking getting this 20 quid. I should have paid something more for it. It's an illusion. Competition it's a complete illusion. We're talking like Grimsby Town, like local clubs doing well, rising up. Nottingham Forest winning the European Cup twice, coming from the second division to do it. Derby County the same, apart from the European adventure. That was in the 70s. In the 80s, you got the odd bit here and there. You got Wimbledon winning the FA Cup. That's about it. Leicester won the league. That's the anomaly. That's the one. They didn't get any injuries, which is really weird. I think they started about 14 players. That was it, the whole season. That's the only reason it happened. The squad was bare thin. They just didn't get any injuries. It's just about survival in the league. That's it. Most teams in the Premier League are just happy to survive. And for the rest of the clubs, it's just survival in general, basically. So look, over 1/4 now of teams in the 3 leagues below the PL have faced bankruptcy or winding up petitions in recent years. So that's a large percentage. You look at around 30%. There's loads of clubs on the brink. Loads. I speak to a mate today as a Charlton fan. They're in big trouble. We'll look at Derby. I saw today that Simon Jordan, he was saying that they're going to have to go into administration. But then again, if you sell your stadium back to yourself, just really opaque financial structures. That's what they all hide behind. It is completely destroying football as we know it. Completely. You look at the facts and it's just unsustainable. A lot of clubs are already falling and it's not going to stop. It's got to keep going. Just like this clicker. Come on. It just keeps getting worse, the debt bubble. So all this money that we've got in the game, all we've got as a result is huge amounts of debt. I talked about the big six being, in terms of revenue, being the same as the other 86. They're in big trouble themselves. The Premier League clubs have a combined debt of over 3 billion. That doesn't include Chelsea, whose debt is about 1.4 billion, but Abramovich owns it. But if he wants to call that back in, he can. And then they just own the debt and they are fucked. So I think that the Abramovich and Chelsea thing, it could end really badly still. They set up holding companies within the firms, and then that's what footballers do to get out of taxes. They set up holding companies, and then they pay themselves a living wage. They're in the Cayman Islands. It costs quite a bit to do, but once you do it, you don't pay any tax. If you've got a lot of money, it's a great way of doing it, and that's what they're all doing. They're all offshore. Everything just fucks off out of the system, offshore. Now you've got to compete. You've got to spend money on wage bills and transfers. This is why the debt bubble exists, because weirdly enough, wages are high now, and that doesn't normally suit a capitalist. The capitalists are struggling to make money out of football, and that's why they're squeezing everything else. You've got to increase profit margins. That's why all this advertising, it's all about advertising now. They're struggling with these wages, but you've got these super agents pushing everything all the time. You've got Macclesfield going out of business for 600 grand. And you've got super agents taking tens of millions individually every season. Hundreds of millions every season are going to individual agents. And they're the ones that are ramping up the deals. They're the ones that the price inflation is ridiculous. Once Neymar goes for 200 million, and it's not incremental rises, it's bang, the double stuff. Once he goes for 200 million, you've got other agents going, you're better than him, look at your stats. You want to be on 300 million. And this just keeps happening. And clubs are being held ransom. It's the super agents pushing it. For me, I don't think they should take any percentage of any deal. They should be paid 100 grand a year or 200 grand a year by UEFA or by... And their job is to look after the players' interests. They don't deserve tens of millions. They're not offering anything. They're just parasites. They're leeches. In Germany, they actually believe that football clubs embody local character and define communities, because they fucking do. And their clubs receive financial aid from local government. Macclesfield shouldn't be going bust. And rival clubs, they give each other money. Bayern Munich paid 1.6 million to Borussia Dortmund. Just, there you go, pays back when you can. Another team paid about 8 million. There's quite bit, they're giving each other money, because they view it as, it's about cooperation. We're all in it together. It's cooperation before competition. But over here, when you hand it over to a capitalist, it's fuck you if you can't you're out of business, fuck off, see ya. They're not bothered. If we're like Derby County now, they are desperate for the backing of a multinational. They are absolutely desperate. They have to get it. But what they'll do is they'll put them into administration, because that means that if they owe 60 million in debt, the multinational investor will wait until they go into administration, get dock loads of points, fall down the league, then they'll buy them for 6 million. And pay off, 10% of the debt. That's how it works. Yeah, wages are being pushed higher and higher by these greedy agents who offer nothing for the game. And it's ridiculous wage inflation. It's unbelievable now. There's a limit where, you can pay a player, they're not going to get any better. There's so much money in the game that the quality of the football's not going to go down. Even Americans, the neoliberal masters they recognise socialism in sport, in fairness. They've got salary caps. We don't have any salary caps. There he is, the Leeds lad. He's looking at, so he's going to leave Borussia Dortmund probably next season on a free, because that means he's same as Messi. Well, Messi just took a wage cut to only $500,000 a week, £1 million a week now. It'll probably go up. He'll probably want, if he has a good season, it'll be 1.5 million, and the next one after that will be 3 million a week. That's how it works. These super agents are just offering nothing. They should not be getting a single penny of these deals. Macclesfield are going out of business. It's just fucking unbelievable how much money they're making and how little money we need to keep the clubs afloat. That's it. If you don't regulate it, that's what you're going to get, and it's going to keep getting worse. And what they're going to do is create a crisis. That's what they're going to do. And we know what happens at crisis. The capitalist comes out on top. Increased profit margins, this is it. This is all it is. Those 5 points. And that monopoly is coming. And I think you know what I'm getting at. It is happening. The crisis is going to be debt. And there's going to have to be reform because this debt is unsustainable. It's like the wider economy, really, isn't it? It draws parallels. But the European Super League is exactly what the capitalist system wants. It's perfect. Billionaires desire it. It's a natural consequence of the economic system. Extinguish or merge with rivals to eradicate competition. So much money in the game, and it's all going to get sucked out. And the crisis is going to be debt. They're going to have to do it. You think about it. If you are, we've got Europe, we've got Britain. It's 50 million people or 60 million people in Europe. I don't know what it is, but the Chinese middle class is 400 million. If you can get those involved, if you can start interested in them, that it dwarfs what Europe. And that's not even thinking about South Asia, other parts of Asia. You've got the South America. You've got North America. These are the markets they want. And it's not even a European Super League. It will be a World Super League eventually. That's what it will be. They want the full monopoly. They have to keep coming. They cannot stop. It will create new markets in Asia, Africa, and both the Americas, and financial flow will be increasingly concentrated into these clubs. And that is to the detriment of every other club in world football. As a result, everybody else suffers. So much money being sucked out. And it's just completely unsustainable. You'll be getting the Chelsea D team. They'll still need players to be able to, get to the standard you need to play in this league. It'll be the Chelsea E team or the D team. No other club will be able to exist apart from these super duper clubs because there isn't the financial model for it to happen. I chose this because I think the person who wrote this banner has got it exactly right. We are absolutely powerless. We have no power. The way this European Super League came about, it's really suspicious as well. It was done so, but it's like Microsoft fucking paint job. It wasn't a proper go. Is it desperation? I don't think it is desperation. They're in so much debt, these clubs. I mean, Spurs is like 1.3 billion. Barca are right on the edge as well. So are Real Madrid. Believe it or not, the German teams don't need it. I wonder why. They've opted out. The English teams we talked about, they are in massive trouble. Man United, massive trouble. They all are. And if they're, it's on an individual whim. There's only one person in that Chelsea of the whole club of millions of people who support Chelsea. There's only one person who can do anything about it, and it's him. We have no power. It's an illusion. Nothing. Mike Ashley, long-time rival. I chose that because you can see what he does. He buys people out. He's merging. He loves it. He's getting good deals. He's taking advantage of a crisis. I like this one here. I cut off the badge. Over £1 billion stolen from my... It's the one time that capitalism's got it right. You think, fucking well done. But over 1 billion... They've been paying debts off in North America and using Man United to do it as a cash cow, completely. I like this. It says, Woodward out, and they've got a red line through it. Well done. He's done really well, actually, for their markets abroad. He's done really well, Woodward. Their brand is dominant abroad. And it says Glazers out, but there's no red line. And there can't be a red line. Unless they decide to leave, there is no red line. They can get Woodward out because he works for the club. They are the club. They own it completely. There's nothing that Man United fans can do. There's nothing that Newcastle fans can do. There is nothing that we can do. It's private property. They completely own the club. We have no power. Privatisation. The private individual is far bigger than the community. By law, there's nothing we can do. They are completely unaccountable for their actions. It's not even capitalism, it's serfdom, isn't it? There's no control whatsoever. Oh, please don't fuck off, They could use the club as a personal cash cow and take huge financial risks, which is what they do. Leeds United fans, we know that better than anyone. I mean, Ridsdale now, he's walked into a job at the EFL. I mean, you couldn't write that satire. It's unbelievable. He was spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on tropical fish. And when we went into administration, he just fucked off. And he went and worked for Cardiff and almost did the same to them. the fit and proper persons test. It's a fucking joke. Like I say, Man United over $1 billion stolen. The amount of money that club makes, it's unbelievable. Nobody in Manchester's getting any of it. This is important to think about. There is a blueprint to take a football team and just fucking move it. Move it. It's happened. It's happened to Wimbledon. They turned into MK Dons. They're in League One. They just moved them over. Wimbledon had to start again. They just had to start again. That's the only thing they could do. I think it's happened in American football. Oakland Raiders moved as well. So this is important to think about. When you think about what capitalism wants and what it's trying to achieve as a system, you can take Man United and you can move it to China. Fucking no problem. There is a blueprint to do it. You can take Man United, you can move it to California. There is a blueprint to do it. And if you can create worldwide global interest, you will do it. You make more money. There's far more people in the world than Europe or England. In the case of Wimbledon and FC United, the fans just started again. You think about all these protests when they were in the different colours at Man United. It did fuck all. It's achieved absolutely nothing. Nothing. It looks really good. Oh, fans are doing really well and getting together. It achieves absolutely nothing. You look at the economics, nothing changes. Nothing. And local community, again, just totally ravaged. Just moved aside. There is no local community anymore with these. You can boycott. Newcastle fans boycotting. The Geordies are so passionate about the football. It says the equivalent of striking. What difference does it make? Mike, he doesn't care. He's not bothered. And then you've got the fan base turning on each other. You shouldn't be going. Do you know what? You can have an empty stadium. He's not bothered. The sociopaths, these people, they don't care. What they want to do is the 5 things I explained earlier. You can't put it any better than that. Heaven forbid we could have a football stadium. It's an athletic stadium, of course, isn't it? And we're seeing more and more of that. We can't even afford our own football stadiums anymore. None. No democracy. And I don't think democracy is a bad thing. There is no democracy at all. And look where we started. It's about the local communities. And England started it. We should be special in world football. There's no democracy at all. Absolutely none. And no one seems to be too bothered about it. Propaganda. Tell them what they want to hear. That's all they do. It's propaganda, advertising. They just say the right things and do whatever the fuck they want. Empty rhetoric from our capitalist overlords. Kick it out. Yeah. Great effort. That's gone really well, hasn't it? That was being branded about for years, actually. But what do they do as a result when someone is racist? They fine them fucking $8,000. UEFA and FIFA are even worse. I remember once they fined one country £5,000. It's just ridiculous. They don't care. They're not bothered. Economics is telling. And they do not care at all. It's sloganistic populism. It's Boris Johnson. It's all they do. And this is a great one, isn't it? I could talk more about FIFA. I've only mentioned it here. FIFA and UEFA, the corruption is unbelievable. They've got their latest slogan is for the game, for the world. It doesn't mean anything. It's just completely meaningless. Let's just stop a minute and think about the World Cup. We're playing the World Cup in winter. In fucking Qatar. Thousands of people have already died building the stadiums. A small country that is human rights abusers again. If you want to do it for the world and actually for the game and for the world and actually do it in winter because it's too hot, go to India. There's 1 billion people that live there and they're desperate for the infrastructure. Go to India. They're going to Qatar, a tiny country with human rights abusers, where loads of people, where the capitalists are reigning supreme. Loads of people live there with fuck all, and the small amount of people own everything. It's unbelievable what's going on in FIFA. It's wire fraud, it's racketeering, everything. And they've been convicted of it. It's just opaque financial structures. It's just people making deals. It's horrible. There is no democracy at all. And they make ridiculous decisions. Now we've got to stop our fucking Premier League season for them. We can't even have a World Cup in the summer. That's what we do. That's the tradition. You have a World Cup with 32 fucking teams. It works. It's fucking ace. Stop fucking with it. Has capitalism distorted how we as a society? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely it has. It's changed the pervasive common sense. It's changed how people look at football and how people think about football and how people support football. Because in a world of distinct winners and losers, only winning matters. That's it. Your team's got to be the best team. And if they're not the best team, you're angry and perpetually pissed off. Local pride doesn't matter. It's gone. The glory supporter, I mean, all these super clubs are just hoovering up the fan base. And it's very glamorous. The kids have all got these big six tops on. They don't spend money on Macclesfield or Bury or Grimsby. They spend money on Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. They're hoovering up the fan base because this winning and losing kind of narrative is constantly being pushed. We've all been guilty of that as well. I wish that I still kind of think that in a way. I wish a rich billionaire would buy my club and we could be like Man United and we could be like Man City and I say Man United quite a lot. They've won the Premier League 13 times. It's nearly half of it. There's no competition. It's just a bigger monopoly's come in now. It's ridiculous. No local pride at all. We are just, please come and buy my club. Let's get a really good sponsor. And there is definitely an increasing intolerance. I think maybe you see it more online. It's the social media thing. People are just so pissed off with a player now. There's no loyalty towards players. The dehumanisation of player and the commodify, they're just products that you buy and sell. And if it doesn't work, chuck it in the bin and get another one. That's the pervasive common sense. That's where we are with a lot of people. You see people, if a player makes a bad pass, he should be sold. Never mind if it's a bad form patch. We have no loyalty towards a lot of our football players anymore. Because really, they're not our football players. They're just commodities that you buy and sell. And like I said, if it's not working, chuck it in the bin. I think this is quite a nice metaphor. That's Ellen Road 93, 94. That's the last time that we were stood in the Kop without it being, seats coming in. I know Hillsborough was a big thing. I know we had to react to it. And I just think it's a nice metaphor for wider society. Fans standing shoulder to shoulder. And here we've got the individuals. We're just being completely surrounded in rows of plastic, individualised. We're separated from each other. That looks like a factory production line to me. That's exactly what it is in a way. We've lost our togetherness. Completely gone. And that is the world we live in. And you wonder about depression, particularly in young people. It's there. It's right there for you. Because that's gone and it's been replaced by that. And that was the Derby game, which is even more fucking depressing. Well, we've had the last laugh because they're going into administration. Goodbye, Derby County. I don't mean that, of course. I was in Derbyshire, actually, on Sunday night. It's a lovely place, very, very rich. South Derbyshire. How can football resist capitalism? Well, basically, this. We should seek to restore local pride and create a more level playing field. Actually caring about your local clubs and money being diverted across the pyramid. And let's get some competition back in. Let's get people buying Grimsby, Bury and Macclesfield shirts again. I think this has got to come in. I'm not saying it's one option, but I think we've got to go for democratic power. We've got to go for public ownership. 50+1, as seen in Germany, I'd rather have 100%, if I'm honest with you. I don't think we need that's just my view. But 50+1 means that no individual private investor can make decisions without the majority. They've got 49%, which isn't enough. That's the model in Germany. They have an amazing atmosphere in stadiums, loads more fans in than we do, but they don't take the piss like we do. They haven't sold their football like we have. Yeah, it's just a bit of a we support our local team, and people chant that, but they chant it for a reason, because not a lot of people do. The most meaningful connections you can have to your club are as follows: geographical or family. That is it. They are the two main things. That's what matters. And that's what's been forgotten. With all these monopolies, all this money. And it is very glamorous, but it comes at a cost. Tribalism does matter. And football clubs, we belong to our football clubs, but they don't belong to us. And that's the problem. We need this feeling We crave it. And it's been watered down, it's been broken up, it's been sold abroad, and it's been rebranded and sold back to us in some cases. I've just put here, the neoliberalised capitalist ideology, it constantly undermines democracy and social bonds that it can't monetise. It doesn't care about us at all. Those 5 things, that's all it is. And it reinforces the globalised monopolies because that's what it wants. And as a result, wealth goes from other clubs, support goes from other clubs. People don't care about them as much, especially the kids. You know, it's very difficult to explain to a kid why you should support Grimsby fucking Town. You know, but something's got to change. This is my view. Have a clear and fair wage structure that will not put the club at long-term financial risk. It sounds a bit boring, but including the salary cap. Have a salary cap, not a salary clap. I mean, fucking hell, we can clap for their salaries. They're fucking massive. Be clapping all day. Season tickets. I think this is a good idea. Season ticket holders to own shares in the club. So let's say you've got 40,000 people in the stadium. Each person pays 20 quid a match. That's 800 grand. Split that in half because you don't play at home every week. Oh, it's rather crude. You've got 400 grand a week to pay to your players. That's 40 players on 10 grand a week. Some of it will be on 20 grand, some of it might be on 30 grand, but you can survive. Some will be on 1 or 2, there'll be kids. You can survive at a lower, that's low Premier League income. You can survive at that level and still have decent footballers and not have this risk. Democratic decision making. You could even have, you're paying £400 there for your season ticket if it's £20 a game. Why not pay £500 and £100? We decide where to invest. We decide how to invest. Local infrastructure, coaching. If you're Man United and you're Man City, if you've got globalised brands, what you could be doing is taking that money and completely rebuilding your city. You talk about hundreds of millions of pounds. You could have an underground system in Manchester. The club could pay for it. That's what we're talking here. You could get to the game for free. It could be totally underground, bang. Why couldn't Leeds do that? We could do with it. Every city in the world that's a massive city should have an underground system that is run on electrics. It's good for the environment. And football could pay for this with a different model. Reject them. Have local sponsors in. A big city like Leeds has still got big sponsors. It's a big city. I look to Manchester, the London clubs as well. You could still get decent, fair amount of whack of money, just local sponsorship. Reject the multinationals, reject the globalisation because it comes at a massive price and it's too much to pay. We don't need them. I mean, we could do fine with, as well, perhaps a space in the stadium where you haven't paid for a sponsor, but you've got, the Burley Banksy just puts out an email, can you do me? Every week, you've got free sponsorship from local businesses. You don't pay for it. The club does it for free. Because they support us, so we support you. That kind of relationship. You could it's not about profit. It's about profit's redefined as fans and the feeling of a fan base. Fans, I mean, for me, safe standing. I've not called it safe standing because it's just standing. It's that simple. Just fucking stand behind the goals. Is it safe? No. Good. I'll fucking get me in there. Let's have a party. Fans should be stood shoulder to shoulder behind the goals. Hillsborough was an overreaction for me in terms of the city. We should get a few more people in. I've not done the research, but I'd like to know how unsafe it was.
Cages.
Yeah, exactly. Take the cages away and get the people. Yeah, exactly. They did. They treated fans like in that Hillsborough situation. They couldn't get out because they were caged in. Take the cages away, get the people back in. If you're suffering from some kind of mental health depression, you go into a football ground and sit in your little plastic seat. You can feel that depression all game. If you go into a swaying mass, you're going to lose where you are. You're going to be involved in something that's bigger than you. And they're scoring you 20 yards that way. That's what we need. That's got to come back. That's been lost. But it don't make money, but it makes us happy. And this is a big one as well. Reject the transfer market. Don't worry about it. Total different way of looking at it. This is not a new idea. It's an idea that exists in the Basque system in Spain. You can't play for those teams unless you are from that area. For me, that's massive. What about if we sold a player? Players like, if you give yourself limits, you find innovation. If you give yourself limits, you have to innovate. Players like Haaland wouldn't go under our radar. He would be signed up at fucking 6 or 5. Anyone with any athletic ability would be signed up and would try and make them play football. If they're not very good, they can go off. Haaland, we're selling for 100 million. What do we do with it? We're not reinvesting it. What do you do with 100 million as Leeds fans? Do you want to pay yourself? We could take £2,000 each. We could pay for our season tickets. We could start that underground metro system we've been talking about, invest with all the local businesses and local government. There's so much you could do. We just reject the transfer market. No, we'll just play our boys. And if they don't play well, do you know what? Well, at least we're watching football for free. I mean, and you back them. You back your players. You're loyal to them. A bit of loyalty. It's gone. Loyalty's gone. Sold. There's no loyalty in business. Huge emphasis on producing local talent and a rejection of the transfer market. Now, if you think to yourself, oh, we might be a bit shit. Well, here's the Yorkshire 11. Okay, the current Yorkshire 11. So if you're a Leeds United player, you cannot play for us unless you are from Yorkshire. That's a fucking team. That team can compete at the very top of football. It can. Look at that fucking defence. That defence is amazing. Look who we've got up front. We've got the best striker in the world with Vardy. I know he's a bit old now. I know. Listen, I've put Shackleton in because I love him. Right, I love Jamie Shack. There are other, I've got a lot. I've separated it as well. West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire. Well, there you go. That's a pretty good team. That is a decent team. That team can compete. I mean, I know Rose is a bit, I'm not quite sure. But that is an absolutely brilliant team. You could in fact, you could knock Rose out and play 3 at back, do a 3-5-2. Ramsdale's he's a Premier League keeper. He's decent. He was in the England team. Yeah.
What's that
Well, he's good as Ramsdale. I mean, he's not best with his feet, but anyway.
I thought South and West Yorkshire were the sub.
Fuck Yorkshire anyway. Fuck them off. I'm not interested in South Yorkshire. I'm not even interested in West Yorkshire. They can fuck off. Bradford can fuck off. Leeds born 11. Let's go. Absolutely purist. Complete purist. Okay. By the way, we're selling Haaland, by the way, so don't get... 150 million, please. We can watch that team for free. We've got one League Two player in there. That's Will Smith, believe it or not. He plays for Harrogate Town. Oliver Casey's untested. The rest of it's not bad, That's not bad. You can compete. I mean, we that's got Championship kind of Premier League yo-yo team, hasn't it? Yeah. Okay? If they go up, they can have the money. But maybe this is about us. We'd be partying every single week. It's partisan crowd, this. Think about the way we feel about Phillips. We feel about that, all of them. I mean, this could be a real party every single week. And do you know what? Winning and losing doesn't even fucking matter that much. It's just local pride is back. We surround the pitch. We've fucked off everybody else, and it's just us. You come to Leeds, and you play Leeds. You play the city of Leeds. That is a feeling that's gone. It's completely gone. We've sold it. Do you know what? You've got to have a Marcelo Bielsa quote in your presentation. Any self-respecting Leeds fan would do that. But I've got a problem with this quote because my ideas aren't new. They're actually really old. They're what it used to be. What you've just looked at is the new system that's been in place, and we've just totally fucking lost our way. What I've just shown you with the Leeds starting 11, that's how it used to be. Local pride has been totally gone now. There are old ideas. What we need to do is take those ideas and bring them back. We've lost our heritage. That's gone. I'm not advocating that we should have fans that close to the pitch, by the way. But the people of Grimsby mattered. They really mattered. You've got the scarves there, you can see. It's incredible. That's gone. And they still sell that to us. They still sell it to us. That's the illusion that we've still got about football. It's gone completely. Look at the economics behind it all, and it's telling. Now, just as a little bit of an outro, the glamour of globalisation comes at a price, and it is glamorous. And it is ace having that connection with a Brazilian footballer at your club. I understand that completely. But sometimes, let's be honest, the football is shit. You're paying for, like Bielsa says, the way that you win's not important anymore. It's all about winning or losing. We're watching these amazing players, and sometimes we're bored. So what does that tell you? Do we really need it? Fucking constant. And it's going to keep coming really low. Like I said, so much innovation with football advertising. And it's going to keep coming. Foreground, background. God knows what's coming next. International teams will have to get spurts. Probably, yeah. It's weird watching the Euros without the logos. You know, you miss them in a way, don't you? Well, I don't. Absolutely. That's the cost that we pay for this glamorous league. And it is unsustainable. And it is going to implode. All bubbles burst. No, it doesn't. All leagues matter. You should be proud. You should have 40,000 people in your city, at your football club, in the 4th division. In the 4th division. I've been to York City loads, actually, with a mate of mine who's not here, who let us down, another one. They're in the 5th tier. It was called the Kit Kat Stadium for a bit as well, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. It just goes to show every league's not immune to it. And you've got 3,000-4,000 people watching him. It's a proper... You don't get that anywhere else, not at that level. Only in England. All the leagues matter. All the leagues are important. We need to bring that back. We've got to spread the wealth out. It's pretty obvious who's going to win the league. Most is 1 or 2 teams in it. And you can forget the FA Cup and you can forget the League Cup as well. I mean, Man City are always on for the quadruple at the minute. There's no fair competition. You can't have a championship team coming through and winning. It happened once, I know, with Leicester. It's just not going to happen again. That's happening less and less. Leeds United did it. We did it in the real class of 92, 91, 92. That kind of thing's going now. It's gone. There's no fair competition. It's pretty fucking obvious who's going to win. Absolutely. Multinationals have come in and completely stolen our clubs. We are naming our clubs after multinationals. Just step back and look at it. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. They're all over our football shirts and they're all over they are our stadiums. Powerless. Don't be drawn in by this, we've defeated the European Super League. It's a phony victory. It's not a victory because we have no power. They will get it sorted out. They will collude. They will get with UEFA and with FIFA, and they will do it. They have to do it. It has to happen. Billions in debt. They can't survive like it is. They have to do it. Because our clubs belong to individuals, not to the communities that built them. We are the communities that built them, and we've been moved out of the way. And we need to do this desperately. We have to get government intervention. We have to get regulation. And there concludes the presentation. Thanks for coming, by the way. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.